Welcome to another Card Advantage video.
Hi everyone.
Hey guys, this is Tyler. I'm joined by Pierre. This is my Katsu list that I won 2 Road to Nationals with, as well as got 18th place at a calling with. And Pierre is using one of the meta Lexi decks that finished well at the Pro Tour. And so, without further ado, we'll go ahead and play the video and talk through our decisions. Pierre, what do you think about the Katsu and Lexi matchup right now?
Yeah, I think it's slightly Lexi favored, and the reason is Lexi just has such insane turns that if she sees just one, um it's over for Katsu. But Katsu does definitely have play, and you'll see in those games actually Katsu's 2-1. Um, and the last
Hey, you
game,
spoiled it.
no, yeah, but the last game actually, I don't draw any power hands, and you see how Katsu can take advantage of that.
Yeah,
Um, but it's even when I went second, so I think it's slightly more equal than people would think originally. It's definitely still Lexi favorite because her power hands are just better than Katsu's.
sure.
But it's
Yeah,
still an aggro matchup. It's you need to be smart about your blocks, especially into Katsu, and you just have to know how to play into Katsu in general.
for sure. I think both heroes want to go second here. Looks like
Yeah,
Katsu lost the die roll and is going first. I go ahead and play out my Kadachi and Surging Strike just to get cards out of his hand, because if you don't get cards out of his hand, he's going to load his arsenal on your turn, and you don't want that. And so I played out my Surging, and then I played a Snatch because I wanted Arsenal of Bonds originally, but with the Snatch draw, he let it hit for one. Um, I went ahead.
yeah,
I went ahead and was able to Arsenal a Snatch because the Bonds doesn't have any targets currently. So I figured Snatch was a better line, and I was rewarded for drawing into my whole combo line off that draw.
so here, um, it's interesting because I had only two blocks and maybe one arrow in hand, maybe no arrows, and I decided to just not keep any card and not load my one single arrow and just full block. Because I didn't want him to be able to leak so much damage, especially if I don't block that surging here on the first turn. I think I think if I don't block it and load instead, that can really spiral. And into Katsu, I don't really want to be so down in life. And we'll see later that will happen. And I didn't. It just the game spiraled out of play. So I think it's important to not be too greedy in that into Katsu.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I block with three cards in hand, maybe, and I draw into my power hand, right? So a lace with blood rot into rain razors into three oak. I'm able to send three arrows at him, and he basically starts the game at 19.
Yeah.
Um,
And
I
I get
mean,
way too greedy here on my opening hand. I have the whole combo line in my hand. Um, and honestly, probably should have blocked out at least blocking out um, that rain razors, but I didn't have a great chance or great equipment. Not rain razors, block out the endless arrow, but I don't have a good chance to block out with that with 2 cards. Instead, I'm pushing out more damage. He lets me have mask. Playing the snatch out of arsenal.
yeah, so it's important to actually not be too threatened by mask. The idea is that mask is only between 3 and 4 value for Katsu, and I mean it can be lower, in fact. If you want to pause, just so we yeah. But essentially, yeah, giving mass trigger here is the best line because I dealt so much damage on my turn that I'm okay with him having a little more value out of mask. And actually here, I don't even know. I don't think you were even able to use your hand effectively. So your draw effectively. So yeah, as Lexi, if you have momentum into Katsu, you just have to keep keep pounding Katsu. You can't you can't just block for mask. Lexi's still an aggro deck, at least fuseless.
Yeah, and
Um,
I dealt 19 damage to you on that turn.
yeah,
And now you have a 5 card hand with you're only down one
endless.
health, and so it's a pretty good turn for you.
Yeah, yeah. Um, and I'm just asking questions here, right? Like, um, I mean, if we continue trading big turns like this, I'm just gonna win. I went second. I have tempo. Um, so here I don't. So Tyler's life total doesn't account for the blood rot. But he's essentially at 17. We just forgot the blood rot trigger.
Yeah, so I'm looking at my
Um,
hand right now. I'm thinking the best I can do is a cross strap surging to discard a Be Like Water to play Bonds. I have that fluster in my arsenal, um, but I also like want to block out this arrow because it's going to make my equipment block less. And so I forget what I do here actually. I think I just drop my hand and move on to the
you
next
might
one.
have, yeah. It might actually be a mistake. Um, but it, I think drill shot. It's good, but as Katsu, I don't know if you really care, especially since your build has two breakpoint blocks.
Yeah, I went ahead and took it anyway. I mean, I know you're gonna hit
Yeah,
me with 3 arrows. Yeah,
yeah.
there's
The remorseless
remorseless.
here
I
is
definitely blocked
huge.
that out
Yeah,
because I don't have a good enough hand to outvalue the value I get from remorseless, and then so I block this. Maybe I can at least go surging whelming into fluster, um, and then you hit me
yeah,
with the winner's bite, um, and
yeah. The winter's bite
there
here
goes
is
my
huge.
turn.
So yeah, I hid information, right? Like I I made sure to present my threats in the middle of the chain. So drill shot's not very threatening for Katsu, but remorseless is. It's basically an arrow for 8 or 9. Um, and so I can basically say that between remorseless and winter's bite, I take 3 cards.
Yeah,
So I for sure leak and I keep my endless arrow. So yeah, this is looking pretty grim for Katsu. 18, 19, and he's only sending 1 card.
yeah.
Um,
That's
but
easy
we'll
four
see
that
in
you
the end
take.
game.
Drawing into this flick flack here is nice.
Yeah,
Allows me to block a little bit, so I can at least break cross strap for surging and maybe discard 100 wins for whelming. But even then, it's not great.
yeah. The interesting thing though is, um, yeah, the infecting shot here buffed is really
I'm able to block
hard
out
to
that 8
block. Yeah, yeah.
with two
You have
cards, which is
to.
nice. And then I can fluster fist this searing, blocking 5. So um, gets you a ponder. I know you have go again, so I think I let this hit so I can go block out the endless arrow instead
Yeah,
because I don't want you
yeah.
to have a 6 card hand. Um, yeah, I switch it up because I don't know why. I think you get one more damage with fluster if surging doesn't hit.
So
Um,
we'll actually see an interesting thing here is that yeah, the game is looking grim for Katsu, but actually you kind of climb back into the game.
a
I
little
mean,
bit.
it felt a little bit over by this point in the game, but from my side, I wasn't drawing hands that could close games. I wasn't really getting really big, nice finishing hands, and we're still threatening good on hits. I mean, here if I let the woman hit, it could really spiral out.
Yeah, I could draw something to get in mash trigger next attack. Like
Yeah, yeah. So you're still forcing me to block. I mean, I'm at 9, so I'm in no way uh completely winning. But yeah, I think
oh, see now you can see my screen does this stupid thing where it doesn't show cards in my hand. You didn't get to see that before. I was complaining about that the rest of the video. Obviously, I'm not well versed in TTS.
So I will say that this game was definitely kind of a high roll um, from my part because Katsu or Tyler drew two all red hands in a row, and although he had cross trap, um, etc., not being able to swing Kodachis and threaten on the on hit mask is definitely um, is definitely bad for him, and yeah, cross trap is a good safety valve for sure, but yeah, here it's just very hard for Katsu to stay in the game after those two all red hands.
Yeah, and now I'm just forced to block out until you have a bad hand or until I lose. It just is what it is at that point.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
here I'm able to arsenal a CNC, so like maybe I get a little bit of tempo back if you let me have a blue in my hand. But I don't think that's what happened.
Yeah, so uh, my
Oh
biggest
my gosh, my camera.
job here as Lexi is to just conserve life totals and make sure that I can set up a hand that can finish him. He's at four still, and he's still conserving his life totals. Um, and he has Kodachis that can close games way easier than a bow can. So, um, yeah, my job here is just to keep my life total up until I have a good hand to finish. Yeah, and obviously Codex of Frailty is huge into Katsu. But it is pretty astounding how much, if I don't high roll and you don't low roll, how much, how close the Katsu Lexi matchup is.
Yeah, it's actually a really fun
Even,
matchup in my opinion.
yeah, it's very fun. It's very fun.
Oh, there I took the three. Yeah, because I saw that Heat Seeker in Arsenal. I draw up, waiting for you to have a bad hand. So I guess we're gonna replay the rest of the game with my cards looking like that. Is what it is. I'm still over here trying to figure out how to how to fix it. It's annoying me. There you
Yeah,
go.
so that's the game. It was definitely a high roll. I don't know. It's still aggro matchup. I went second, and my very first turn was the best I could hope for. I mean, 3 Rain Razor and a buff,
Yeah.
and I was able to send 3 arrows.
Yep.
So I mean, it's a pretty great first turn. You started the game at 19 life,
Yeah, I probably
to
should have
my
blocked
37.
out that turn and just passed. But I mean, I had the whole combo in my hand, so I got wide eyed. So that's a good lesson. And sometimes, like, you have the whole combo line in your hand, but sometimes you have to lay it down in order to prevent more damage coming through, um, and preserve your life total for another hand, for another turn that's maybe not as good for you. So if I block out there, like, maybe I can last longer and turn the tide of the game.
And it's interesting though because um, a few metas ago, it's been a long time, but Katsu used to be able to just race anybody and not really care too much about blocks. Um, but it's not, you can't do that anymore. You have to have the discipline to just lay your hand or block with 2 cards and go mid range for a turn cycle.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what my list is designed to do, is to be able to block out if you need to, or wait or be more patient. A lot of the Katsus right now are just trying to play out their whole hand, be as aggressive as possible, and that's going to win you some games, but it's also going to lose you some games. So playing a more mid range style like this is going to allow you to be able to win some games that you wouldn't have won normally, and be able to stall out some games in order to prevent getting high rolled more often. Um, so that's the benefit of this of my deck compared to other decks that are out there. But starting off this next game, I'm going second. I'm opening hand 3 blues. Sometimes Lexi doesn't attack into you, but I'm glad they attacked into me, so I could discard some cards out of my hand. Uh, the most important card in my hand was Lord of Wind. I want to keep that in my hand for my big combo turn later in the game. So I want to try to keep it so I can pitch it back into my deck next turn. But obviously he doesn't let me do that, and he's going to hit me with a Remorseless for 8.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
So
is
here, I
not
mean,
good.
my thought was, I could just send 0 arrows and just load with Voltaire and pass. But I saw the opportunity for my
Remorseless plus a Blood Rot
remorseless.
on turn 1 is pretty
Exactly.
good.
Yep.
Either I have to
Yep.
give you my equipment or not. So, um, yeah. So here's this.
I mean, if I can get mask or two of your equipment so early, I win.
Yeah.
So I think it was the right play to just let it hit.
A lot of times you could Achi before surging, but this time I didn't. I surging first and searched for whelming so that I could razor the whelming to get the draw off of it. And I probably don't do anything else after this. I'll probably just arsenal whatever I draw off of it. But it's still pretty good. So if you see that, then either they have with one resource floating on a whelming, either they have a razor or they have the McGinty in their hand. So
Yeah. So here, I mean, honestly, I exact sees this,
you bought
thinking that he
you
would
bought for
block.
5, but I mean you
I did
can't play
block for
around the
5.
razor.
Yeah.
So
And I can't play around the razor. But I do think this equipment block actually, well, you'll see the end of the game, but I think it was kind of pivotal, even so early, because I can't use my perch to buy back my momentum later in the game.
mhm.
And him having that draw actually, um, yeah, the ancestral here
Yeah, now I get an
becomes
ancestral in
huge.
my arsenal for next turn.
Pretty
Beautiful,
huge.
beautiful.
And
That's what you love to
also,
see.
it's also something to note is that you know he razors instead of McGinty's, so that means my remorseless actually gets less value.
Yeah,
So that's something to know is Katsu could have a 5 card hand, but two reacts in there. So your remorseless, yeah, it's one of your better cards into Katsu, but you can't really um, you can't really hope that he'll get full value every time.
and then of course my next hand is just beans. I just get beans. And I'm over here sitting like you may only hit me with a Bolton shot, but like I have to block it because like my turn's gonna be trash if I don't. I'm letting you have the 1 damage on me for the reload, because you already have 2 resources, so it doesn't really matter if you whatever you reload, you're gonna have the resources to play it.
Yeah.
Um, and so
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
unless it's specifically a battering bolt, there's no way that I'm not gonna Voltaire and give it +1.
yeah.
So yeah, it was definitely the right play.
Then my turn becomes Kadachi Bond's pass, which not the best turn, but at least I didn't take any damage last turn from you.
Yep, yep.
And
Two card
like,
5,
yeah, that's
and
rough. When you
I
have to
have to
play a
take the 5.
bonds and pay 2 for it, that's kind of rough. But
Yeah,
it
2 card 5
is what it
is
is.
poor value, but as Lexi here, I have to just take it.
And then my next hand was
Um,
also beans. So we're like, okay, now we're playing the blocking game.
but here blocking with Dishonor is good actually because you're feeding your graveyard.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I
Yep,
blocked with it first because I don't have one in my graveyard yet.
yep, yeah, yeah.
So now I'm looking at this hand. The best line out of this hand is Kadachi, Fluster, and Razoring it. And then I can go get something. I think that's what I'm considering right now at this point. Because it's only a.
You might have blocked, if I remember,
Let's find
but
out.
maybe not.
I'm not too worried. Well, I am kind of worried about the reload because you need. If you have a 1 cost arrow in your hand, you need that resource for it. But then you hit me with the Codex of Frailty, and you actually needed that resource to go hit Remorseless. Um,
Yeah.
And so it didn't really matter blocking out the Bolden shot. But at that point, I'm just like, okay, here's my 5. My Kadachi Fluster Razor is not going to be my turn. We'll just
And I
drop the Fluster for 4, and we'll each take 4 damage and move on to the next turn.
and I will say here, like you have to kind of consider the discipline that Tyler had because I mean, yeah, the codex makes your Kodachis useless, but um like just keeping one card and hitting for 4, you're slightly down on your turn cycle value. I mean, I'm up in at 30 and he's down at 27. But in but here um you're coming by with a 5 card hand. Yeah, I have 4 cards, but all Katsu really needs is one turn that you just, combat trick me with an attack reaction or something like that, and you could just spiral out. And here, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, your hand is quite good. So
I mean, I have an Ancestral in my arsenal, so I have Surging with a Bond in my hand with 2 Ancestrals. Like, you're getting Dishonored this turn.
oh
Like,
yeah,
it
yeah,
just
yeah,
is what it
absolutely.
is. And so, by not getting too greedy last turn, I was able to only take 4 damage, and I sent 4 damage back at you.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and
So it's
so,
it's it's,
yeah.
it's important to
And I
to
got past the Codex of Frailty turn. Like, that's pretty good too.
when you play a new deck or learn a deck, it's always super important to just know when and where you have to be disciplined and not just think of your damage output, but also just the whole momentum of the game. Currently, I might be up in life, but honestly, I'm not really feeling in control.
And you gave me a card
Um,
because you didn't have a great hand last turn.
yeah,
But yeah, I've had 2 or 3 straight bad hands in a row, and now I have like the turn. Like, this is my turn now, and I'm only down 3 life. Like, that's pretty good. See, here you can see I'm checking my graveyard for Dishonor, making sure, making sure I have one in there before I commit to not blocking you this turn. Seeing a Falco Wing is great. It's just damage to me, so I'm not definitely not going to block that out. I can block with Ancestral if I want, if I need to preserve a hit effect or something. Yeah, see, here's your Remorseless. You block with the
I
Ancestral in
think
your hand, and you block with your equipment to get hit
yeah,
5. Since you have an Ancestral in your arsenal, your whole turn is going to be dependent upon drawing a 0 cost card off of that Ancestral from Arsenal. But at least I prevent the remorseless trigger from it. Oh, that's what I do. I do not use my equipment block. Why would I use my equipment block there? That's weird. Oh, because you gave it +1 off Voltaire. That's why it was 6. And so it's the same thing. So cross strap to surging, and now I literally have 2 cards in my hand and one in my arsenal, and I'm able to completely turn the tide of the game here. There's a cross strap going into surging. Now I
so
need a 0 off ancestral, and you're getting dishonored.
it's important to note though, like this whole turn is relies on the fact that you're gonna draw a 0 cost from this
Yeah,
ancestral.
and I have over a fifty
Um,
percent chance on it, and so I like the odds of it. Yeah,
so yeah, it's kind of crazy how off 3 cards, you can dishonor me.
yeah.
Um,
It,
it's important to
so
to
here's me
recognize that
thinking, if
Katsu's
I'm
able to
am I
do
going to go
that.
whelming, or am I actually going to try to hit the dishonor line? And of course, I get the descendant,
Yeah.
but yeah, and I was only able to take what 3 or 4 damage last turn because I completely blocked out your remorseless. So there's that. I breaking
Yeah.
skills.
So
I breaking
so
skills it here
here,
so I can keep my mass trigger active. So if you
yeah.
don't block bonds, then I'm drawing a card, and if you don't block dishonor, then you lose.
Yeah. So here, it's important to know when you see Katsu go for descendant when he still has warmings in his deck, there should be a warning light in your head. Okay, he's gonna go for dishonor, and he has a bonds in hand. So here I was trying to bait, and maybe wrongfully so. I was trying to bait the breaking skills, but I quickly realized it was not the correct line because now I gave him a mass trigger.
And now I have a 5 card hand going into you after you just laid out your
Yeah,
entire hand. So
and I have 0 cards
so
and
I
I have to
essentially
pass.
I forced you to make the decision. Do you give me a card off mask, or do you get dishonored? And
Yeah.
honestly, there
So
you
here,
probably get dishonored. Like I would probably rather get dishonored as Lexi.
I don't know. I don't know if Lexi wants to be dishonored. Having 0 arsenal is, well, 1 arsenal is terrible. But the maybe I just, you know, take the hit for everything else and just block dishonor because I know it's coming, and
Yeah.
just let you have a mass trigger. And that way I can still send something at you that's relevant. But here, if I remember correctly, my hand was not very good.
Yeah. And out of
So I
out of
just
my
decided to lay down.
sure, out of my next hand, I have the 100 wins in my hand. I only pitch for one Kadachi because I have a CNC, and I want to make sure I have enough resources to play that out. He lets the 100 wins go, and now he has to block out the 100 wins to avoid me getting a match trigger. And when he does that, then I get to play the CNC and either take his arsenal or take the rest of his hand. And then I can play. And then that takes the tempo for the turn. I take his hand, and then I play out my floating dojo, which some people don't play in their list. But then I play the dojo to put surging and whelming on top, and I have a 4 card hand going into him, and I'm continuing that pressure
Yeah.
off of the dojo. So let's see if he lets this. So he lets me draw off mask. I get to play CNC out because he's trying to turn the tempo here, and then
Yeah.
I get to arsenal my whelming that I drew off of mask, and I can go ahead and search for surging McGinty off of the dojo. So
So
look at his
it's
face. Look at his
important.
face on the video. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
here
beautiful.
CNC was my biggest worry. I was hedging that he did not have CNC, and instead would just continue on with a bunch of small attacks, and I had the life total to kind of take some more damage. But here I already had committed um to not blocking and try to force tempo in my way.
I don't
If I
think I have a
remember, it was
McGinty
actually a
there.
pretty big, a very good hand.
So I don't have McGinty
Um,
there. I have to go get the bonds instead, which is fine. It's a good second option, but
yeah,
McGinty would have been better there.
yeah, and it's. I think looking back, the correct line was definitely to just block the CNC, preserve life total, wait until you have a dud hand. But I mean, it's 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 a hard it's hard to evaluate how powerful that next turn will be for Katsu.
Yeah, so that's a
And
string of
he's
3 turns in a row. After blocking out, having a couple bad hands, I get the one good hand, make you drop your hand, and now as long as I have gas turns, like the game's
yeah,
over because you're going to be blocking the rest of the game.
yeah, exactly. And
Is this where he
yeah, I
gave
mean,
you?
I just don't have like the turn that just. I think I actually draw into 2 or even 3 non-attacks. So I was kind of hedging that this would be a comeback turn, but
But you
it
lost your
definitely was
arsenals.
not. Yep, yep. Which is huge because I actually had a premeditating hand, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and my arsenal was bolt and shot. So, obviously, premeditate into into bolt and shot from arsenal is the best case scenario.
Yeah, so after that winner's bite, I'm committed to not blocking out the rest of your turn because I can hit the whole line again, surging whelming bonds, as well as a Kadachi, um, and strip most of your hand because I'm going to be presenting, what, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 16
Yeah,
damage, and you have 6 health, so that's pretty much your entire hand. And at that point, it's just game over, so.
yeah. So here I just have to. Yeah, here.
I
I
mean,
kind
you
of
know there's a
get
bonds in my hand, so you're
feeble-minded.
not worried about the Katsu trigger because you know I had the
Yeah.
bonds because I put it on top with the dojo.
Well, I knew you had the bond, so I knew you had overwhelming in Arsenal.
Or
Um,
Descendant. Descendant would have been good there too because then it would have been 5 damage. But
or Descendant, yeah. Yeah. Uh, so I just value block at that point.
I'm gonna
I
get the
don't full block
Dishonor
the
just because it's a
surging.
0 for 4. Um,
Yeah.
it's not active. Yeah, give me that New Horizon or Tunic. There you go.
Here I Tunic because I just don't like being at one.
Yeah,
I mean, at two, you're still technically in Kodachi luck. I mean, you're just one turn away from death, but at one, you have a lot more pressure. All breakpoints take two cards. So, yeah, I just prefer being at two. Give Tunic now. I'm not going to really get value out of it. The game's already over. Um, and I draw into a no block, so it's game.
no. This last game, I think I have to go first, but I actually find a way to turn the momentum
Yes, yes.
in the
You.
in the
I go
middle of the
second.
game.
Yeah, I think the third game is actually my favorite one because I go second, but and I don't draw any power hands. But I don't think you do either. Actually,
I had
you
that
don't
one.
have.
I have one big turn
Yeah, yeah.
where
So
we got
it's
you.
really a testimony to how the matchup is very even. It's very even. Slightly Lexi favored because her big turns are just slightly better, but Katsu with his big turn can really just win a game. And you'll see here.
Yeah, so I draw into beans on my first turn, but it's
I
good
like when you're
because
trying to beans.
it's a little bit graveyard. Oh, I have to go first, and I have beans. Not great. So here, I think I'm gonna play. Looking at it from here, I'd play the Whelming just to get it in my graveyard, but or you can play the bonds, pitching the winds, and arsenaling the Whelming. So at least you have a Whelming and arsenal for the next time you draw surging. So those are the two options here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I go ahead and I play out the bonds because you don't want to arsenal the bonds here because you won't really have much in the way of graveyard targets yet. And so it might take a while for it to a turn or two for it to happen. But by arsenaling the Whelming, when you draw into a surging, like you do there, you get rewarded for it. And now a pretty gas hand. He was able to get that endless arrow in Arsenal, which I hate that card. It just makes you
Yeah, Endless
block it,
Arrow's
or else it
huge.
sticks around the whole time.
Um, I can't. This is the game I actually remember the least of my ends of. So yeah, I think here I go second, but I don't get a gigantic turn. I actually draw into all one cost arrows, I think. So
And no blues, it looks like. You
drawing
get to pitch the
into
codex.
yeah, yeah, and I think I'm actually only able to send one or one arrow, maybe two. No, just one. Um, and
Oh yeah, so
one arrow
here
and
I'm talking
endless.
out my potential line that I'm gonna have. So I'm looking at my hand. I have the Whelming and Arsenal, um, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, how can I play out the hand? I think the line in my head is surging to Whelming, discarding the 100 wins from Mugenshi, and then when I get the Lord of Winds, I can go um, Kodachi, CNC, and get a mass trigger off of that. I think is what I was thinking about. So I'm like, I'm not going to block this turn because I want to hit you with this. I block with the Breeze Rider boots here because I am planning to play out the McGinty line. I'm also, am I giving you breaking skills? I don't know, but I want to get those equipment blocks out of the way because I'm planning on using it next turn. So it saves me a life because I get the equipment block and then I'm free to use it on my turn without wasting that block. So that's why I blocked one there. And so the way he's played in the past, I'm pretty sure he's going to let this one hit. So I'll be able to grab the McGinty off of 100 wins. And so he either has to give me his hand this turn, I get an Arsenal of CNC, or he gets punished for it.
Yeah, so here I really have to evaluate because he didn't block my Heat Seeker, he didn't block my last turn at all, so I have to evaluate whether or not he has already the combo piece, and here he doesn't. But
Yeah, if you
he
block
did.
surging and I have whelming, then
I'm
well now
very
you have to block
punished.
whelming too, and your
Yeah,
hand's gone.
yeah. And you have CNC, which here you can't send, but I don't know that. I don't know what you have in Arsenal.
He knows he has to block that one, and
Yeah,
now he's
here
making
whelming is
greens.
just stopping the mass trigger, well, the future mass trigger, and stopping the draw. So
So this is a
I
must
have to
block for
give.
you. You have to give me
Yep,
2 cards out of your hand to do it because I have breaking skills. You can't just give me perch grapplers.
yep.
So there you go. Um, so the other option is to get bonds 100 wins and pull those out. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I did that.
that
Look
was
at you.
cringe.
I did that.
That was cringe.
Yeah.
So here, if
Let's
you want
pause
to
that.
pause, I can
Let's
explain.
pause that.
So
How
I
greedy.
choose to block. So I kind of molded there. I was very sad that he did that. Uh, and I gave Tunic because I valued my 2 cards in Arsenal higher than my equipment blocks. In hindsight, and I actually play out the game with this philosophy. So I have a 3 oak in my second Arsenal, and I in my mind, uh, I gave my Tunic to protect my 3 oak. So now I just have to draw into rain razors and get my momentum back. And I might not need to use my tunic down the road. So it was kind of a test to see what the tunic block here feels like. Um, I will say I think maybe keeping the tunic and the perch is might be better. I have to reevaluate this, but here I suffered greatly from not being able to use my tunic down the road, and actually I didn't draw into rain razors this entire game, and it really hurt from having that 3 oak in there, and I actually keep it for a while. Um, so so it is kind of interesting. I don't think the 3 oak was worth the tunic block, but you'll see. I don't use it. Um, I don't use it for a ginormous turn or anything. I end up using it to gain a little bit of agency back in the game, but the cost of tunic was big here, and the CNC. I was honestly not expecting the the the, that play. It was very epic.
Yeah, I think I just got greedy there, but I want to talk about. Um, there's some debate about why I run McGinty's and Lord of Winds in the main, and what good they're for. Well, they're really good to turn tempo in a game, and so uh, the other option here off of surging is to grab a bonds and then go bonds 100 wins into probably a Kadachi and then your CNC off a cross strap. Um, however, 100 wins, bonds into 100 wins is 7 damage, and he's gonna let it all go because he's not gonna block it because there's no hit effect on it.
Yeah,
However, McGinty is 5 damage, or 6 with breaking scales. If he lets it hit, it's at least another 6 more damage with the Lord of Winds plus a mass trigger, pretty much guaranteed, using the Kadachis, and so it could be up to 10 or 11 damage. And so what happened is that McGinty allowed him or made him give me two of his cards in his hand, he's left with one card left in his hand, and I have a CNC. And so I'm like, he has one card left. If I come in with a CNC, either his both of his arsenal cards are destroyed, or he gives me Perch Grapplers and Tunic, and now he doesn't have any more equipment blocked the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And he still gives me the card in his hand. And so, if I grab the bonds there, then he still has he has three cards in his hand that he can block out the CNC, and it's a lot less effective. And so the McGinty was key in stripping his hand. Now I have successfully turned the momentum for the rest of the game. I got both of his equipment pieces that he blocks with out of the way, and now I can continue going aggro into him the rest of the game.
If you didn't send the CNC back at me, I would 100% play the 3 oak. And I think that's a very important lesson, is that yeah, the CNC here, yeah, you're using a cross trap early, but the CNC here is massive for the tempo of the game.
Yeah. And I'm
And if I was able,
and I'm like, I want that gone, you know.
yeah, and the 3 oak here might win me the game. If you leave me with one card in hand and a 3 oak, I could just be able to send 15 or 14 at you the next turn.
Yeah, off of a one card hand, like.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it was definitely the right decision here.
All right, let's see how this game finishes. I forgot that I broke cross trap to play the CNC. That was, and of course, I draw into two defense reactions, right?
I remember it.
So here I draw into two defense reactions, an Whelming and a Winds of Eternity. But this
this is actually a very instructive line. You should go through it.
Yeah, so I go Kadachi, Whelming, and he goes no blocks off the Whelming, which in hindsight he realized that was a mistake.
Yeah.
So I let the Whelming hit, and then I search, or he lets the Whelming hit. Yeah, and then I draw my card, see what I get. Because I'm explaining, there's 3 triggers here. This is important when you're playing Katsu. Whenever you have a mass draw, you have 3 triggers that hit. You have the mass momentum, you have Katsu's hero ability, and you have Breeze Rider boots. And you get to sort them in whatever order you want. Most of the time, you're going to draw your card first. Because there's a small chance that you draw whatever you're going to search for. And then now you can search for something later in the combo chain instead with the card you were going to search for originally. It's also good to know what you're going to get before you break Breeze Rider boots to see if it's ultimately going to be worth it on that turn. In my mind, I'm discarding Flick Flack for a McGinty so I can get 2 cards out of his hand, and then I'll arsenal whatever I draw off Mask. And so we'll see that play out here.
Yeah, and here, I mean, given one card here is definitely the better plan.
I might have breaking scaled this too. If you would have given me one card.
Yeah, if I gave you one card, you might have.
So now I draw the Surging, and I'm able to arsenal that this turn. As well as I'm thinking about breaking Breeze Rider boots to go get a McGinty, because he's not blocking, and he wants to play out that 3 of a kind. And so I'm going to make sure he's punished when he wants to do it, and he has to do it on a 2-card hand instead of a 4-card hand.
McGinty is a must block. By all means.
Because like the other option here is to go bonds
you can't take it
into 100 wins, and that's just 7 damage.
Yeah.
It's also important to note this is my last McGinty for the game, so breaking Breeze Rider boots is totally okay here. Yeah, you showed me 5 block, and you're like, wait a minute. Yeah, there you go.
I used to play a lot of Katsu. He's actually my first hero, and back in the day when you had into aggro Katsu, when it was Kodachi Whelming, on the other side you were like, Okay, good. That's a bad turn. But
Yep.
nowadays, it's not so much so, especially with Tyler's inclusion of breeze riders. That's a lesson I learned from this game, from this testing.
Oh, this is where you baited me.
Oh yes, I
I
love that.
I see my hand here, and I'm like, all right. I have a surging in arsenal. I have a bonds here. I'm gonna discard my dishonor off of this winter's bite so that I have it in the graveyard so I can dishonor you next turn. I was like, man, I'm a genius. Whoever seen this line besides me, I'm a genius. And then watch what happens. Boom, another winner's bite. Oh, you baited me there. Didn't even have any arrow for your turn. So now I have to discard another card. Or
Yeah,
now I'm like, what am I gonna do on my turn?
it was very funny because you were explaining this whole thing
I was
about,
explaining this whole
oh
thing,
yeah,
how I'm a
I'm gonna
genius.
yeah. And
He
I'm
just
just
let me put
trying to keep
dishonor in my
my
graveyard. What a dummy.
and yeah, I'm just trying to keep my calm and not laugh while
Oh
you're
yeah.
explaining this whole thing. Uh,
So now I'm like, okay, what do I do now?
yeah, so here this is where I really miss Tunic, right?
Oh yeah.
Because I kept this three oak, and I could have just came back, did winters into three oak, try to send two arrows, but that you know, not having the tunic counter really hurts Lexi's 1 to 2 hand cards. And in hindsight, it was definitely not the right blocks, and maybe
Mm-hmm.
just taking the CNC might have been better. I'd have to think a little back on that, but yeah, the I think it was one of those turns where I could have climbed back in the game.
You could have tried to play
Uh,
the three of a kind, but you don't know what you're gonna get.
exactly. So that's why I was kind of keeping the two winters bite. It's just in case you pitched the blue for the first one, I was able to
Then
play
you
my
then you could
three
have three
oak.
of a kind, yeah. But then you saw,
Yeah,
oh, now I've taken two cards from him. That's good. So
yeah,
my
yeah,
line here, I think um, I'm going Kadachi surging, hoping that you let it hit. Then I can at least go get whelming for a two draw option where you have to give me two cards. My whole game plan now is to try to get you to block,
yeah. So once again here,
especially because you're protecting that three of a kind.
yeah, you've kind of pinned me on the game plan that I am going to I am going to protect this three oak until I get a power hand, and I'm gonna protect life total while doing that. And I think requiring blocks, and not letting me take you down in life as I protect this three oak is very important. Um, and I think this was well played and a good read.
Yeah, that second winner's bite prevented like 8 damage that turn, plus a dishonor trigger. Like it's very good value on it. And now I arsenal my Be Like Water, and my hand is gas, and I don't care what you send to me. And you
Yeah.
decided to play it out because you got impatient. Um,
So I didn't get impatient. I think I actually need to think about this a little bit
well, you're
more.
presenting 8 here, and plus another what 5 probably
Yeah, yeah. So
4.
you had a pretty dud turn, or at least in terms of value, you didn't present too much to me. And I was thinking that this could be a comeback turn, especially with a premeditate. I was able to get a new arsenal, um, and present two arrows.
Yeah,
Uh, um, and maybe it was just the right play to continue waiting, but as we saw later, it was just waiting was maybe not the right plan anyways, because all my not three oaks, rain razors were literally in the bottom like 7 cards of
yeah.
the deck. But I mean, in terms of statistics, right? Like, if I go through half my deck, I should expect to at least see one and a half rain razors, and I just did not.
Yeah.
Um,
And I guess you had a remorseless and a premeditate in your hand, so
yeah,
you couldn't
exactly.
attack anyway.
Yeah,
And your other two cards are what, Death Touch and something else. So yeah, I think you had to go for it here. And now, but
and
now
the death touch. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a 5 card hand now. I gave you breaking scales because you would have -1 counter on it with drill shot anyway.
Yeah,
Um, so there's that. But yeah, now I take all that damage. I go down 8 health. But now I have a 5 card hand. I drew into my combo line, and now I'm looking good. Um, I played Be Like Water first because it's a it disguises what I'm gonna do that turn. So you're gonna block it out pretty much every time. Both my McGincheys are gone, which is sad. That's what I wanted to go for. But um, so I play the Be Like Water first because I want a second chance to go get a bonds this turn, and so um, because that's what Be Like Water can help with. I already have surging, but playing the Be Like Water allows me to have another option as a Katsu trigger. I think that's what I'm explaining here. So he's gonna block that for 3 every time because that's just what people do.
this one I take because I know for a fact that you would not get 5 cards if your whole 5 card turn was hanging on the be like water trigger.
And you know what? That's fine
Um,
by me too. I'll take a. I mean, it guarantees me. Um, it guarantees me bonds. But what I have to do is
Absolutely.
I have to discard ancestral for it though, which is fine. Sometimes you have to discard ancestral to go get your combo piece. You don't ever really want to play it out here. Even if he lets me have the be like, even if he blocks the be like water, you don't want to block with incest. You don't want to play ancestral on it because you don't know if you're going to get a 0 cost off of it. And if you don't get a 0 cost, well, now you have to give up your whelming, or you just don't get to go search for bonds.
Yeah, so yeah, just to know, I made the right read.
Yeah,
Like the be like water was just bait.
but
Um,
now I have a Katsu trigger, a mass trigger off of surging. That's pretty good.
yeah,
And I'm gonna have
yeah,
another draw trigger off of whelming as well. So
yeah. That was definitely your biggest turn. Um,
so you let me draw off of it. Of course, I draw into a Lord of Wind, the worst card to draw into.
it's 2 damage.
I
But
actually I actually arsenal it here. So you let me draw off whelming too. Um, and then I draw a razor, and now I can play out the Lord of Wind
so
and
I made the
arsenal the
call that
razor.
maybe I was able to wait for my blocks until oh, you couldn't dishonor anymore, right?
No, I couldn't dishonor.
Yeah, so because I knew that he couldn't dishonor, um I just made the call that I will just let you have your turn and try to come back from it.
Yeah.
Uh but he was not correct. I think blocking those on hits was a better
Yeah, well,
choice.
laying out your hand on surging and whelming still gets me 8 damage off of bonds and whatever I pull out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a lose lose situation. And you drop your hand. You lost 8 health, and now I have momentum again. So
And here I should have one floating, but I realized that later.
oh
I'm
here you
doing
went to the bathroom.
yeah. No cuts, all raw footage. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think here you explained your hand
yeah.
uh
I said the
about it.
option is I have a razor. So in my head I'm saying I'm gonna go Kadachi Kadachi, be like water, razor it, get the mass draw, pay the 1 for surging, go get a whelming, have 2 floating off of the paying the 1, and then coming in with the CNC after the whelming. So I'm gonna get your whole hand, and you're gonna lose. So whatever damage you're presenting to me is not. I don't care because let's see, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12.
A pretty good turn,
It's
to be
18
completely honest.
damage. It's 18 damage with 2 draw triggers and a CNC. So like
Yeah,
there's no way you live after that. And if you do, it's
yeah.
no hand and little life.
And here I feel confident. I'm like, oh yeah, I gave you 2 blood
You're
rots.
like,
You're
oh, be like
essentially at
water, I can do
5.
that. Boom.
Yeah, yeah. The razor here is huge, and I end up actually losing because of it. But yeah, I mean, there were a lot of this game specifically was is very interesting to study back on. I think I made a couple mistakes, but I'm not super sure those mistakes cost me the game. I'd have to analyze, and
Did
maybe
I
in the
pay the one
comments you
here? Oh,
can
there we go. Yeah.
let us know what I could have done better. I'm still kind of new on Lexi, but yeah, I think Tyler played this one really well. And this is just what happens when, as Lexi, you just don't get your power hands. Uh, and even then, I don't even think Katsu high rolled. I think Katsu is just super consistent.
Yeah, Bond. The whole Bonds line made him really consistent.
Yeah,
Because then we
yeah,
don't now we don't have
absolutely.
to play leg tap rising knee thrust for raw damage. We have something to work for with the other line. Yep, there we
Yeah, so
go.
here I die on the fluster fist.
Yep. And
Yeah,
now
so
you're
here I'm
looking for
just
your rain
digging for
razors.
my rain
Yeah, where
razors.
are they? Where are they?
I see one here. I was gonna draw into it, and then I check. Oh, these are pretty good hands. Wow. I was just about to draw into them.
Yeah.
Not that it mattered. I was low in on life, but yeah, it was good to play a game on Lexi where you're not just like a beast and just send 30 damage twice a game. So uh,
Yeah,
I think as
those are good
Katsu,
games.
no, it was a good game. The last one is the better one by far. I think the
Yeah.
first one was a high roll.
That
The second
CNC
one,
really got you. I was
yeah, yeah. There's a lot to learn from that last one, I would say,
all right.
and the second one as well.
Well, thank you everyone for watching our video. We
Absolutely.
really appreciate
Thank
it. If
you.
you have any questions or comments, please let us know in the comments section. Thank you to our sponsor, Righteous Gaming, for sponsoring
Thank you,
our
Righteous
channel.
Gaming.
If you want discounted singles, 10% off if you message them on Discord. And then the team gets a kickback as well. So it's a good way to support the team. But with that, Pierre, appreciate your time. Thanks for
Absolutely.
playing against me. And we appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Bye bye.